Okay, good morning everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Okay. Good morning everyone. Okay. So by yesterday class we have finished the photosynthesis and we have solved some of PYQs, is it? So friends, now we are going to start studying a very important topic, that is what we can call transport in plants. Okay. Okay. Why this topic of transport in plants is very important? Okay, as I told you in the yesterday class also, friends, from the 2017 paper, we see before also the question was came continuously, but from the 2017 the question was very often or frequently asked from this particular concept of transport in plants. Okay, so friends, actually every single time there are only two ways of asking the question from this particular concept. One way of asking the question is from the statement. Another way of asking the question is the matching. Okay, these are all the only two ways that they use to ask the question very oftenly from this particular topic. And trust me, here the question that we get is a very straightforward question or very direct question. Very easily you can answer with minimal understanding of the concept. Okay, what exactly we have to study? Friends, understand what exactly we have to study in the chapter of membrane transport. We have to clearly understand how does the xylem transport is occurring, what does the xylem is composed of, and at the same time we have to understand how does the phloem transport occurs and what does the phloem composed of. Okay, so these are all the concepts where we can expect the questions. Okay, friends, let's start. Before understanding how the xylem is transporting water and how the phloem is transporting the food, first we have to understand very clearly first how the transport occurring across the plasma membrane. That is very important, because friends, whatever has to be transport, that has to be transport across the plasma membrane only, right? So understand, this is the plasma membrane. On the plasma membrane, what are present, friends? Everyone understand. On the plasma membrane, there is a abundant amount of channels, carriers, as well as pumps are present. What do we call them? We will be called them as membrane transporters. What we will be calling them? We will be calling them as the transporters. So you all people has to remember how does the channel work. You all has to understand how does the pumps work. You all has to understand how does exactly the carriers are working. Okay, so after that it is very easy to understand in the transport in the xylem as well as the transport in the phloem. Okay, if everyone try to understand the concept very correctly without confusion, let me explain you. Okay, let's start. Channels. Okay, and friends, please do not confuse with this. Understand my words very correctly. Where this particular channels, carrier or pumps are present. So friends, they are always, understand my words correctly, they are always embedded in the plasma membrane. So that's why what do we call them as? We will be calling them as integral membrane proteins. What we will be calling them as? we will be calling them as the integral membrane proteins, because they are embedded. You can see the picture very clearly, friends. They are embedded in the plasma membrane, correct na? But what is the point you have to remember? Among this particular channel carrier pumps, every student please look into the diagram, friends. This particular channel and carriers, they are actually following what kind of a transport, friends? They are following this passive transport. What do you mean by that? Passive transport means it always show the mechanism of what, friends? It will always show the mechanism of diffusion, which means that what is diffusion here? They started moving from very high concentration to the very low concentration. Is it or not, friends? Yes. So you have to understand a point that then there will be a no requirement of the energy. Yes or no, friends? But friends, if you look into the pump, what is the point you have to understand? When you look into the pump, the transport is occurring. There is no doubt about it. Understand my statements correctly. The transport is occurring. Again is the electrochemical gradient. Correct na? So obviously what it is using? It is using the energy. So that's why I can easily conclude a statement that the active transport always uses what, friends? The active transport always uses the pumps. Please do not get confused with this particular point at all. Channels and carriers follow the passive transport and pumps always follow the active transport. Okay, now all the students follow me. We will be discussing one by one. It's a little broad concept, friends. Try to understand the concept very correctly. First, we have to understand all the characteristic features of all these three transporters. Characteristic features of all these three transporter means structurally how they look like. Good morning everyone. How it structurally look like and what are their major functions. Everyone understand? So what will be the first one? So the first one we can call it, friends, channels. Every one of you follow me correctly. What you have to understand by the channel, friends, remember my words correctly. The moment you heard the name of a channel, always remember that, friends, channels are gate-like structures. Every one of you understand my words. How does the channels look like, friends? They are gated like structure. You all people know, right, friends? How does the gate works? So you can open the gate as well as you can close the gate. Yes or no, friends? Of course. Same way, channels also will work, by the opening and closing system. Understand my words correctly. Whenever, follow me, friends, whenever there is a opening of the channels, you can see here, right, yellow color ones. What are those? Different amount of ions or different amount of molecules. They are entering inside. Now there is a valid question. What is the valid question? Sir, does every single ion or every single molecule enters inside? Never ever. All the ion or all the molecules never ever enter inside. Remember my words, every one of you, very correctly, friends. Look into the picture carefully. Here, where exactly here, there is a pore-like structure. Or either anywhere there is a pore-like structure. Understand my words. What is pore? No, it's a hole. Pore-like structure. So understand my words very correctly. Whatever the ion or whatever the molecule that has to be transported through the channel, if it fits into the pore, friends, understand my words very correctly. If it fits into the pore, only that particular ion or only that particular molecule can be transported across the channel. Not every ion, not every molecule. Whichever the ion or whichever the molecule exactly fit into this hole, only those can be transported. Always remember this particular point. Now, what are the examples of a channels? Is there any necessity to remember the example? Yes, it is very important. You have to remember the example. Anion channels, calcium channels, potassium channels. Friends, try to understand the point what I am talking. Let's take an example of anion channels. The first point every student has to understand is, by using anion channels, remember my words, most of the anions go out of the cell. I mean to say, they will move across the plasma membrane. Ions are going out of the cell. Let's let's consider the chlorine. Every one of you understand. Let's consider the chlorine. See here, through the chlorine only, friends. See, the chlorine is going out of the cell by using this particular anionic channel. But friends, if you look into the calcium channels, every student understand my words. If the calcium wants to come inside the cell, obviously friends, the calcium is using the channels to come inside. But every one of you understand my words correctly now. Potassium channels. What you have to understand, friends, if the potassium, either if it wants to go out, come in, or if it wants to go out, obviously it is using the potassium channels only. Don't confuse with my words. Anions, if they want to go only out of the cell, then only they will use this particular channel. If they want to come inside, they are not using the channels most of the time. They may use the carriers. Don't confuse with that. And friends, calcium channels, same. If the calcium, I told you many times, friends, understand my words correctly. Calcium is the ion which will perform abundant functions inside the living cell. Is it, friends? So how does the calcium calcium ions comes inside? Only through the channels. Calcium wants to go out. It may follow the pump or it may follow the carrier. Calcium mostly follow the pump in order to go out of the cell. Then what about the potassium channels, friends? If a potassium wants to come inside or if a potassium wants to go out of the cell, most of the time what they are using, friends, obviously they are using the potassium channels only. Don't confuse with that. Okay, so we understand first type of the transporter. What is that? Channel. Now we are studying about the second type of the membrane transporter. What do we call it as, friends? Carrier. Every one of you follow me correctly. Friends, name itself indicating, right? Carrier. Understand my words correctly. Carrier means what? Which is carrying something. Correct na? Which is carrying something inside. In other words, remember my words correctly. Which is facilitated. Understand, friends, my words. See, this is a carrier. Remember my words. The carrier is the one which is facilitating the movement of this particular ion or molecule across the plasma membrane. Understand my words. Follow me correctly. Suppose example, friends, this is an ion. Okay, it has to cross the plasma membrane. It can't cross the plasma membrane directly. Don't confuse with my words. It can't cross the plasma membrane directly. So what this particular ion is doing? This ion is using this particular carrier. So you have to remember my definition what I am talking. This carrier facilitating. What, friends? This carrier facilitating, or the carrier is mediating. That is the reason we can say that the carrier is following what kind of a transport or what kind of a diffusion, friends. We can call it as the facilitated diffusion. Friends, tell me, everyone, does the facilitated diffusion can use any kind of a energy, friends? No, it is a type of diffusion method only. Yes or no, friends? But understand my words. The diffusion can be guided, the diffusion can be mediated, the diffusion can be transported by the carrier. So that is what exactly we can call the facilitated diffusion. Okay, how does it occur? All the students has to understand my words very correctly. Every carrier, remember my words, every carrier having a specific site. What do we call it as, friends? Binding site. All the students follow me. Understand my words. Whatever the ion, and follow me, friends, whatever the ion or whatever the molecule which has to be transported, it will come and attaches to the particular binding site in the carrier. Where it will attaches, it will come and attaches to the particular binding site in the carrier. Friends, the movement it will come and associated with the particular binding site of the carrier. What is happening, friends? Understand my words. The carrier undergoing structural change, or the carrier undergoing the conformational change. Don't get confused. The movement carrier undergo the structural change, or the movement carrier undergo the conformational change. Immediately what is going to happen, friends? Immediately there will be a opening of this channel. You can look into the picture, friends. The movement when there is a opening of the channel, what is going to happen, friends? This ion or molecule enter inside. Understand my words correctly. Once the ion or molecule enter inside, once again, second time, the structural change will occur or conformational change will occur. It will come back to the normal position and it is ready to pump another ion or another molecule. Let me quickly summarize, friends. If you look into the carrier, what is the point you have to understand? Carrier having a special binding site in it. Whenever an ion or molecule that has to be transported, which will come and associated with this particular binding site, after that structural change or the conformational change occur. By that, carrier will open and it will allow the transport of that ion or molecule into the intracellular space. Once it transport, once again it undergo the structural change or conformational change and it is coming back to the normal position. Don't get confused with that point. And friends, the point I want you people to remember, what kind of substances can be transported via carrier? I want you to remember, carrier actually involved in the transport of various sugars. Remember my words, amino acids, as well as it is involved in the transport of a salts. Even friends, they are involved in the transport of nucleosides also, right? These all can be transported exclusively via carriers. Don't confuse with that. So what we understood so far, we understand channels, how they mediate the transport. We understand the carriers and how they mediate the transport. And friends, now what we are going to study? Now we are going to study about the pumps, how they are going to mediate the transport. This is most, see, all are important, there is a no doubt about it, but when compared to the channel and carrier, pumps are very much important. Okay, because channels and carrier, obviously they are moving along the concentration gradient. Yes or no? They are moving along the electrochemical gradient. In a simple words, they are always moving from high concentration to the low concentration. But friends, the movement when you heard the pumps, what you have to remember, friends, they are always moving from where to where, friends? They are always moving from low concentration to the high concentration. Yes or no, friends? Of course, yes. So let's talk about the pumps. Okay, understand. Pumps always mediate what kind of a transport? Active transport, because everyone understand the line. They are transporting the solutes or ions against a concentration or against electrochemical gradient. Don't confuse, listen my statements correctly. The moment you heard the pump, one point is crystal clear, they are always using the energy. Now friends, so since they are using the energy, then what I can say that? I can say that the pumps are following active transport. There is a no doubt about it. And friends, the active transport is also of two types. Don't get confused, listen to me correctly. What are the type of active transport? One we called primary active transport. Another what we call, friends, secondary active transport. Friends, what are the differences between the primary active transport and secondary active transport? What you have to remember? Understand my words correctly. In both cases, we are using the energy. There is no doubt about it. But friends, in case of a primary active transport, we will always use as direct energy. In case of a primary active transport, we will always use the energy from the direct sources. Example, ATP. Okay, then what about the secondary active transport? Once again, there is a no doubt we are using the energy even in the indirect transport also. So what kind of energy? Not from the ATP. We can use the energy from the NADPH or majorly from the H plus pumps. Majorly from where, friends? H plus pumps. Most of the students will get confused here. That is the differences between the primary active as well as the secondary active transport. Always remember, in both cases there is no doubt, friends, the energy is utilizing, but in a direct manner as well as the indirect manner. Here direct is from the ATP, indirect is from the NADPH and H plus. Never ever forget. Now let me explain you the examples of a primary active transport and secondary active transport. All the why you have to remember all these, friends. In a part B questions also we can expect about the transporter. Even in the part C questions also we can expect. Okay, follow me. Primary active transport, also called as direct active transport. So since we are using the word direct, so obviously it will uses the energy also from a very much direct sources. So like they will always uses the ATP. Okay, now understand, friends, this active transport examples are two type of pumps: electrogenic pump, electro-neutral pump. Don't confuse, my friends. Okay, what are the major differences? What are the major differences between the electrogenic pump and electro-neutral pump? What are the major differences? Name itself indicating, na friends, electrogenic, which means I will tell you there is always a net movement occur. Okay, but what about the electro-neutral pump, friends? There will be a no net movement. What do you mean by that? All the students try to understand. Listen my words correctly. Let's take electro-neutral pump. In case of a electro-neutral pump, everyone try to understand my words correctly. There is 50 ions. Understand my words. 50 ions are going out of the cell. 50 ions are going out of the cell and 50 ions coming into the cell. 50 ions going out of the cell and 50 ions are coming into the cell. Is there any net movement, friends? What I can say that the net movement is zero. Don't get confused with this particular point. So friends, what about the electrogenic pumps? Try to understand. Suppose if two ions are going out of the cell. Understand my words correctly. If two ions are going out of the cell, how many ions are coming into the cell, friends? There is only one ion is coming into the cell. Then what I can say that, so the net charge will be 1. Sorry, net movement, total net movement will be what? 1. Because two ions went out of the cell, but only one ion entered into the cell, then obviously there will be a net movement of 1. So in a simple words, electrogenic pumps means it create always the net movement. Friends, when we are reading the electro-neutral pump, what you have to remember, friends, there will be a no net movement. The net movement is literally 0. Don't confuse with that particular points. Okay. Now friends, what is secondary active transport? Once again, very clear. Primary active transport using what kind of energy, friends? It is using the energy absolutely from the direct sources such as ATP. But I am giving you example in the upcoming slides also you will understand, but I am requesting you remember here. Friends, 90% of the cases in the secondary active transport, the energy is utilized either from NADH, friends, or the energy is used from majorly, friends, majorly from the H plus pumps. Majorly, H plus is the one which will provide the gradient in order to allow the transport. And friends, in the secondary active transport, there are 3 type of pumps are there. We know very well, we started studying from the +1 onwards. Okay, so listen my words very correctly, friends. Okay, uniporter. Understand my words very correctly. Uniporter. What do you mean by the word uniporter, friends? Uniporter means the movement of a ion or molecule, understand my words correctly, in only one direction. Right. So very simple. You can see, right, friends, how many ions or molecules are moving, friends? There is only movement of only one ion, or there is a movement of only one molecule only. That is what exactly, friends, we will be calling it as the uniporter. Don't get confused with that particular point. So do not get confused with that particular point. Only one ion is moving, and that too in a one specific direction. Now friends, if you look into the symporter, what you have to understand, friends, there is a movement of two ions or are two molecules, and they are also moving in which direction, friends? They are also moving in one specific direction only. Friends, one more important point that I want every student has to remember for the exam is that most of the people will think that symporter means there will be only one ion or one molecule is coming, but that is actually a wrong statement. In the symporter, friends, even there is a possibility of two ions also can come, 1, 2, even 3 ions are also, or 3 solute molecules also can enter. But you people always remember, friends, mostly 2 ions will come enter. 2 ions will enter normally. What is antiporter? Okay, I want every student has to remember the best examples of all the symporters. So the best example is what, friends? Sodium and glucose. Friends, in our body, everyone of you remember my words. In our body, if the glucose wants to enter inside, what, friends? In our body, if the glucose wants to enter inside, there should be compulsory the entry of sodium. There should be compulsory the entry of sodium. So what we can say that sodium and glucose is moving in the same direction. And what is antiporter, friends? You all people know that where there is a movement of one molecule in one direction, other molecule in the other direction. What is the best example that you can take from the antiporter? Sodium potassium pumps. Correct na, friends? Always the sodium is coming inside and potassium is going outside. Is it? So friends, what you have to understand finally about the aquaporin. Follow my words correctly. See, right now we completely understand what are channels, what are pumps, and what are carriers. Correct na? Before understanding the xylem and phloem transport, friends, first we all people has to understand some extra information about the aquaporins. Remember my words. What are aquaporins, friends? Aqua, water. What are aquaporins, friends? Aqua, water. Porin, channels. Correct now, friends? Aqua, water, or are porin, channels. So that aquaporins only we can call water channels. See, I want every student has to remember this diagram, friends. You can see, right? This is the aquaporin. Most of the students will understand aquaporin can transport the plasma membrane only one time. Only one time. Actually, that is absolutely wrong statement, friends. Aquaporins can transpan the plasma membrane multiple times. So that is the reason I want every student has to remember that aquaporins are multi-transpan protein. Aquaporin is a multi-transpan protein. Friends, you take GPCR, right? GPCR is how many times it is transpanning? 7 times. Suppose example, if you take a glycoporin, glycoporin can transpan how many times? 1 time, single time. But friends, this particular aquaporin, what I can say that they can be transported more than 10 times. That is the reason only, friends, we will be calling it as the multi-transpan protein. Please don't get confused with that particular statement. Okay. Now, there is a no doubt, friends, aquaporins are majorly involved in the transport of a water molecules. There will be a no doubt about it. But what is the point I want every student has to understand is that along with the along with the water molecule, it also allow the movement of several different molecules. What will be the best example that you can take, friends? Okay, all the students follow me. Along with the channels, very important one, ammonia can move. Urea can move, right? Uric acid can move. Even, friends, there will be a movement of the glycerol also. So what I want you to understand, friends, along with the aquaporin, there will be a different uncharged molecules are also traveling. That is the speciality of this particular aquaporin. Don't get confused with this particular point. And friends, where the aquaporins are present, does the aquaporins are present in the plant or are animal, friends? Undoubtedly, friends, aquaporins are present in the animal also, aquaporin present in the plant also. But friends, what's the unique statement that every one of you has to remember? When compared to the animal, see friends, this is also very important one. When compared to the animal, plant can contain more aquaporins. Please do not get confused with this particular point. Now you all has to get a doubt, sir, why the plant contain more aquaporins, why not the animal? Because you know very well, friends, plant cannot flee. What do you mean by that, friends? Which means plant cannot move. What, friends? Plant cannot move. Since the plant is not moving, what is the point you have to understand, friends? So it require more amount of the aquaporins for their transporter mechanisms. So that's why keep it in your mind. Plants contain more aquaporin when compared to the animal. Correct, correct. Yes, Archana, glucose can move through the carrier also. Yes, yes, it can. It can. Okay. Now, remember my words. Right now, what we have studied, friends, till now, we all people studied what are the different type of transporters that are present on the plasma membrane. That is what we studied. Now we are going to study the real concept where we are expecting the questions every single time continuously. Right. So if you look into your 2022 September paper, once again the question from the apoplastic and symplastic pathway. Very simple, very straightforward questions. Okay. All the students follow my words correctly without confusion. Okay. First, every one of you understand what exactly I am saying you right now. Actually, friends, from where to where the water has to move. All the students follow me. Imagine this is the shoot. Okay, imagine friends, and these are all what, friends? These are all the roots. These are all the roots. Okay, these are all the roots. Imagine friends, it is the soil. Everyone imagine this is the soil. Correct na? Understand my words. Where the water molecules has to transport first? From the soil. All the students follow me. From the soil, water molecule will reaches to where? To the root hair. How, friends? What is the mechanism? You all people know it. I will explain you briefly. Follow me first. It will follow the mechanism osmosis. Yes or no, friends? So finally water molecule reached where, friends? From the soil it reaches to the root hair. So from the root hair, understand my words correctly. From the root hair, where the water molecule reaches? The water molecule reaches the xylem. Yes or no? Where the xylem is present? Of course in the root only. And from the xylem, where the water molecules are reaching, friends? Water molecules are reaching tip of the plant. Nothing but it is reaching to the shoot, it is reaching to the leaf. From the xylem, the water molecules are reaching where, friends? Tip of the plant. Correct na? Remember my words, remember my words. Whenever water molecules are reaching from the xylem to the tip of the plant, what do we call it, that particular condition, friends? We call it that particular condition as ascent of sap. What do we call it, this particular condition, friends? We call it as the ascent of sap. I will explain it. I will explain it. Follow me correctly. Okay. Friends, before understanding how does the water molecules are transporting, I want every student has to understand, friends, two important pathways compulsory. One we can call apoplastic pathway, another one we can call, friends, symplastic pathway. I will explain to all of you in a simple way. Follow me correctly. I'll just draw a small diagram and I will explain to all of you. Just look into this. What is a symplastic pathway? What is apoplastic? Try to understand what I am drawing. Suppose, friends, this is the root hair. Correct na? What do we call root hair? You all people know that. Follow my words correctly. Root hair is called as epidermis. Okay. Tell me, friends, after the epidermis, what is present? Please understand the concept. After the epidermis, there is a presence of cortex. So what do we call them as? We will be calling them as the cortical cells. What does the cortex made up of? The cortex made up of cortical cells. So like this. After cortical cells, what is present, friends? Endodermis is present. Correct na? This is what, friends? Endodermis. Okay. Now, friends, we started studying multiple times. What does the endodermis consist of? Endodermis consists of an important strip. What do we call it, this particular strip? We will be calling it as the Casparian strip. Is it? Now, after this particular endodermis, what does it contain? It contains steel. Nothing but xylem. Right. So, now all the students follow my words correctly, friends. First, where is the water molecule is present? Look into the picture, every one of you. This is the soil. This is the soil, right? So from the soil, where the water molecules are reaching, water molecules are reaching root hair of the plant. That is only we can called epidermis. What is the mechanism always water molecule will follows when they are traveling from the soil? They are always following the osmosis. Okay. Now finally they have reached the epidermis. Yes or no? Now once they reach the epidermis, all the students follow me. These are all water molecules. I'll explain you very clearly, don't worry. They are all the water molecules. The moment water molecule reaches the epidermis, some water molecules follow the symplastic pathway. Some water molecule, follow me correctly. Some water molecule follows the apoplastic pathway. Some water molecule follow the symplastic pathway. Some water molecule follows the apoplastic pathway. Friends, what are the major differences between the symplastic and apoplastic? I will tell you in a simple way. The moment you heard the name of a symplastic, every single time you remember that it will always use as the plasmodesmata. Okay. Whenever you heard the name plasmodesmata, always keep it in your mind, friends, that transport always occur within the cell. The transport always occur within the cell only. Okay, friends, when you heard the name of a apoplastic, what is the single statement you have to remember? That transport is never ever within the cell. What do you have to remember? The transport is always through intercellular spaces. What, my friends? The transport is always through the intercellular spaces. Don't confuse. Now let me explain you with the help of a diagram. Okay. What is symplastic pathway? Friends, where the plasmodesmata is present here between the cells. You know, right? Plasmodesmata can act like what, friends? Cytoplasmic bridge. Correct, na? So from here the water molecule is directly transporting. So whatever the water molecule that is using the symplastic pathway, it can travel within the cell directly. That is called as, friends, symplastic pathway. All the students follow me. Now what is apoplastic pathway? Don't get confused. Look into the picture. They are traveling through the cell wall, intercellular space. 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 This is what exactly, friends, we call it as the apoplastic. Apoplastic means transport never occur within the cell. Transport occur always through the cell wall and intercellular space. All the students, please look into the diagram very carefully here. Every one of you look into this diagram, friends. Here the arrow, whatever I am drawing with the red color. What is this transport, friends? See, this is the cell 1. This is the cell 2. How does the transport is occurring? Within the cells via plasmodesmata. But if you look into the apoplastic, you see here, this is the apoplastic transport. This is the apoplastic transport through the cell wall and intercellular spaces. Please don't get confused with this. Okay. Follow me correctly. You have to remember every single statement here also. Apoplast refers to the non-protoplasmic components of a plant. Tell me, friends, what are the non-protoplasmic component means? Of course, cell wall. Cell wall and the intracellular spaces. That is the reason I have given you the definition, and you also remember same thing all the time. Apoplastic pathway means the transport always occur through the cell wall and intracellular spaces only. And in the apoplast, water molecules, friends, are always showing what kind of a diffusion mechanism? They are always showing the passive diffusion mechanism. You have to remember this, friends, because in a given 4-marker question, the statements will appear from only these kind of points. And symplastic, what you have to remember, the continuous arrangement, always connected with each other via plasmodesmata. And in the simplast, how does the water movement occur, friends? In the simplast, friends, the water movement is exclusively taking place via osmosis. Friends, please do not get confused with this particular point at all. Understand me very, very, very correctly. If you understand this slide, half of the concept is very clear for everyone. If you understand this one, half of the concept is very clear. Okay, now follow me correctly. Don't get confused. Just listen to me correctly. Okay, I am drawing it once again. This is the soil. This is the soil. Okay, and this is the epidermis. Okay, once again, see, friends, from the soil, all the water molecules are reaching how? Via osmosis. Okay, now remember. So I am using now 2 arrow marks. Whatever the arrow mark I am using in the black one, that is, all the students remember, that is the apoplastic pathway. Okay, whatever the water molecule that I am using in the white color, imagine that is the symplastic. Okay, now remember my words. Now, where the water molecule reached? From the soil, water molecule reached the root hair. Now every student listen my statements correctly. Some of the water molecule, follow me, friends. Some of the water molecule following the symplastic pathway, some of the water molecules following the apoplastic pathway. Understand, whichever the water molecule followed the apoplastic, every student follow the arrow, white line. Through, they will cross the epidermis. How they cross the epidermis? They cross the epidermis via plasmodesmata. They enter into the cortex. They cross the cortex. How they cross the cortex? Via plasmodesmata. And they enter into the endodermis. How do they cross the endodermis? Via plasmodesmata. And where they enter? Pericycle. From the pericycle, where they have reached, obviously, they have reached the xylem, which is present in the root. This is what pathway, friends? Symplastic pathway. Within the cell only they are transporting all the time. Now I am talking about the water molecule whichever following the apoplastic pathway. All the students follow me correctly. Whatever the water molecule that is following the apoplastic pathway, follow me, friends. It crossed the epidermis. Every student follow this black line correctly. Once they cross the epidermis, through the cell wall and intracellular spaces, it entered the cortex. From the cortex, once again it traveled through the water molecule traveled through the intercellular spaces. Every student follow me now. It reaches the endodermis. Now everyone has to understand my point. It reaches the endodermis. On the endodermis, what is present? On the endodermis, Casparian strip is present. Now you only try to understand the concept. Do you think this water molecule can cross the endodermis? Never ever. It never cross, because Casparian strip is made up of a chemical. I hope everyone remember. What is the name of the chemical? Suberin. Suberin is a what, friends? You know very well. Suberin is a lipid substance. It never ever allow the movement of the water molecule. So friends, now what is going to happen, friends? All the students follow my words very correctly. Now, from the endodermis, water molecules are skipping. Listen my words correctly. From the endodermis, water molecules are skipping the pathway of apoplastic. They re-enter. See the arrow, see the black line. They re-enter into the symplast and they will continue through the plasmodesmata and finally they reaches the xylem. Don't confuse, I am re-explaining for all of you. Follow me correctly. Once the water molecule reaches the root hair, that is called epidermis, some water molecule follow the apoplastic, some water molecule follows the symplastic. Whatever the water molecule that followed the symplastic, it can easily cross the epidermis, cortex, endodermis, pericycle and xylem. Finally enter into the xylem. They are always following the plasmodesmata. That's why they can easily transport. But whatever the water molecule that followed the, remember my words, that followed the apoplastic pathway, it cross epidermis, it cross cortex. The moment it reaches to the endodermis, it can't cross the endodermis because of the presence of a Casparian strip. So remember, whatever the water molecule that followed the apoplastic pathway from the endodermis, remember my statements, from the endodermis, they skip. From the endodermis, what they do? From the endodermis, they are going to skip this particular apoplastic pathway. They re-enter into the symplastic pathway and they are ultimately reaching the xylem. Don't confuse with that particular statement. Now you only tell me where finally the water molecule reached, friends. All the students follow my words correctly. From the soil, water molecule entered into the root hair. From the root hair, where the plant directly reached to the root. Now you only tell me, see, where is the root? Here is the root. Here is the root. Inside the root, xylem is present. And where the water molecule has to reach? Water molecule has to reach to the tip of the plant. So how they will travel? They will travel via xylem. Okay. Before understanding the transport, we people has to understand the structure of the xylem. And this is the question which we got in the 2020 paper, the question which we got in the 2019, the question which we got in the 2017, especially from the differences between the tracheary elements and vessel elements. Okay, remember, what is xylem? Xylem is the water conducting vascular tissue. What it is? Water conducting vascular tissue. What does the xylem made up of? Xylem made up of parenchyma and xylem made up of the tracheary elements. Friends, one point is very clear. Wherever you heard the name parenchyma, what's the most common statement has to strike in your mind? Wherever you see the parenchyma, it is living tissue, always living. And the tracheary elements are dead tissue. What is the part B question they have asked? Which is the most active water conducting element of the xylem? Which is the most active water conducting tissue of the xylem? What most of the students will answer? They will say that parenchyma is the living tissue. They will say that most active conducting tissue of the xylem is parenchyma. That is wrong. The answer is what? Tracheary elements. Now you can ask me how. Sir, you said that the tracheary element is the dead tissue. Then how it will transport? Very important, friends. Tracheary element is dead. Dead means what? Is there any organelle present inside? Understand with common sense. Tracheary element is a dead tissue. Dead tissue means inside nothing is present. So inside is what? Full space. Lot of empty space. Friends, through that empty space only, lot of ions or molecules will be moving continuously. That's why remember my statements very correctly. Parenchyma, tracheary elements. So tracheary elements are a dead tissue. Very good. That's the reason we are calling it as the most active conducting element of the xylem is always tracheary elements. What does the tracheary element is made up of? Tracheary element is made up of tracheates as well as the vessel elements. I want every student has to remember the major characteristic differences between this particular tracheates as well as the vessel elements. Follow me correctly. Vessel elements and tracheates. See friends, whatever the significant points that I have written as the differences, I am requesting all the students remember it, as it is. Very easy to remember. Tracheids, first point you have to remember. Major conducting elements in the gymnosperms and ferns, and especially the advanced plants like angiosperms. So always uses the vessel elements. I want you to remember angio, vessel-like structure. So remember, angiosperms are always uses the vessels. Now let me tell you the structural features. Very easy to remember friends. Follow my words correctly. Tracheids are long, elongated spindle fiber structures. What I am saying? The tracheids are long, elongated spindle fiber structures. Is it? They are all contain some pore-like structure. Whatever the dots I am writing friends, they are called as pits. What do you call it? You can call it pits. You can also call it as pores. Pits or pores. What are the pits or pores? Through the pits or pores only friends, the water movement will occur continuously. Okay, here contain pits or pores. There is a no presence of the perforated plates. There is a no presence of the plate. You have to remember what I am talking. This is called plate-like structure. The plate never be present in the tracheids. Only pit or pore. So all the students follow my words. Since there is a no plate-like structure, this particular tracheids can transport the water with a very lower efficiency. This is a very important point. But friends, if you look into the vessel elements, they are very short, but they are very broad. Even though they are very short friends, they are a broad structures. You can see here. Now all the students has to understand, they are also contains what? All the students follow me. They are also contain pits. They are also contain a pores. Correct na? But friends, along with the pits and pores, what else they contain? All the students follow me. They contain perforated plate-like structures. These are all called plates. Along with the pits or pores, they contain a plate-like structure. So friends, since they contain a plate-like structure, the abundant amount of water molecules can easily transported via this particular perforated plates. That's why when compared to the tracheids, we always say that the vessel elements are higher efficiency in the water conduction. That is the major reason they are present in the advanced plants like angiosperms. Okay, so friends, that's all for now. In the 11:30 a.m. class, once again we will start from the xylem structure and we will finish it and we will solve the questions in the evening class. Is it clear everyone? Please let me know. Any kind of a doubt I will re-explain friends, and I am requesting all of you to revise this once for the evening class without fail. I'll upload it immediately. Is it clear everyone? Let me know if you have any doubt. I will re-explain. Okay friends, we will meet sharp 11:30 a.m. Okay, we'll meet at the 11:30 a.m. in the app. Okay, we'll meet at 11:30 a.m.